said unto him, feed my sheep. We're charged with going out and sharing the gospel with people. He said, feed my sheep. He didn't say, make sure my sheep eat. He said, feed them. So eating is up to them. If you feed the sheep will eat when the sheep get hungry. You have to ask the question, who am I feeding? He gave me. He was talking to the Father. He said, you gave me the ones that I have. It wasn't Jesus that went out and got these people. God gave him these people. God led him to these people. So therefore, Jesus is telling Peter the same thing. The people that you will come in contact with, they're not your people, they're my people. So therefore, I need you to be willing to lay down your life for these people, the same way that I was willing to lay down my life for you. It has to be intentional. See, you have to feed those that God has placed within your circle of influence. God has given you a family for a reason. God didn't just give you a family so that they could get on your nerves or you could get on their nerves. God gave you a family for a reason. This is your first circle of influence. But then God has allowed you to grow up with people and meet people in school and meet people on your job. And now your circle kind of expands. Now you have an outer circle. You have your inner circle, which is your family, but you have a circle that is a little larger than that. Those are your friends. And even God has allowed you to meet people in the places that you frequent. It has to be intentional. See, you can't just run out and stand in front of the store and tell people, oh, Jesus is the way. No, you have to be intentional about what you do. Because a lot of times we do that, but it's just about us. Sometimes we will stand on the corner and prophesy and speak to people and evangelize, but we don't know what those people are doing with that word. But our family and our friends and the people that we come in constant contact with, see, we're able to see how the word is working in their lives. We're able to see how the word isn't working in their lives. See, when you feed your children, you're able to see your children grow. If your children are not eating properly, it starts to show up physically. They start to have various illnesses. They begin to look a certain way. You can tell when a child is not eating right. You can tell by their energy level. You can tell by the way that they carry themselves or by the way that their skin looks. When we're not eating right, our skin looks horrible. But when we eat right, when we eat the necessary fruits and vegetables, we get this glow about us that shows that we're healthy. So therefore, you can watch your children when you feed them. And it's the same way with these people that we are feeding the word of God. You're able to watch them. You're able to see how the word is strengthening them, or if they're not digesting the word, how it's not having an effect on their lives. All because they're pretending to eat, but they're not digesting it. Same time, we can't spend all of our time at church and neglect the ones that live with us. We can't spend all our time inside the church walls and we never feed those that are on the outside looking in. Don't you know the ones on the outside that are looking in? Those are the ones that are most in need of the food of God in the first place. They don't want to come in because they don't want to be judged. They're rather you come and find them. But see, we got to make sure that we're balanced. We got to feed people that we can have an exchange with. You want to feed people and make sure it's balanced so that you can have an exchange with them. Sometimes even when you feed other people, they'll share something with you. You'll be fed also after you feed them. Those are the people that you can have an exchange with. You got to have a relationship with people that you can genuinely motivate. I'm not talking about manufactured motivation. I'm talking about genuine motivation. At the same time, you got to have people that you can challenge. If you can't challenge people, then how can you hold them accountable? See, in order to hold them accountable, there has to be a challenge laid down in the first place. If somebody is struggling with their anger, you got to be able to challenge them to keep that anger under control. Sometimes it's easy to give it to strangers, but it's harder to give it to the people that know something about us. Because see, people will flip the script on you real quick. You telling me about my anger. What about your anger? I've seen you get angry. I've seen you yell at people. I've seen you draw your hand back and try to slap people. See, we don't want people to flip it on us. So we got to make sure that we're being intentional. Make sure that we're being balanced. Because in Proverbs 27:17, it tells us that iron sharpeneth iron. So too a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friends. So therefore, that means that we have to find some people that are just as sharp as we are. But a lot of times we shy away from those people because we want to be the one doing all the feeding, and we never want anybody to feed us in return. Having iron around you is not always comfortable. It's not always comfortable having somebody around you that is just as opinionated as you are or just as knowledgeable as you are. You got to make sure that you have some people that can pull your coattail every now and then. If not, we become these demagogues. We become a god in our own mind. And now we believe that people need us more than they need God. Next thing, we have to make sure that we ask the question, what are we feeding them? See, feeding also has to be intentional. You have to make sure that what you're feeding a person is what they really need. You can't just feed the whole group based on the needs of just one person. You have to make sure that you're feeding them according to what they can handle. Everybody has different dietary restrictions. Some of us are allergic to certain things. Some of us don't appreciate certain things, but we try to feed people what we think the masses need, and we're not being specific in our feeding. That's how it is with the word of God. You got to make sure you know what people need. Make sure you know what people are going through. Don't just cast a net and hope that you catch the right people. So you got to make sure that what you're cooking, what you're feeding is appetizing, appropriate, and authentic. See, your food has to have a purpose. You got to make it look, but then you got to make sure it's appropriate. See, when you have those cookouts, children don't get ribs. Children get hot dogs. You make sure you have something that's appropriate for the children. And then when you do the chicken, children don't get breast, thighs, and wings. They get the legs because children can handle the legs. See, they don't know how to properly eat a breast. So therefore, breast costs too much to be given to children. That's why we got those drumsticks for the children. Children can't handle Cokes. We got the hug juices in the cooler for them. We make sure that it's appropriate for the children. Where I'm from in New Orleans, you can't give children crabs, crawfish, and shrimp because they're going to mess over them. They don't know how to peel them properly. See, you got to make sure that you got some corn and some potatoes and some smoked sausage for the children. Yeah, you can dog that corn out, but these crabs cost too much for you to be playing around with. So you got to mature today. Make sure that the meal is appropriate for the people that you are serving. Let it be authentic. Don't try to prepare something that you don't know anything about. See, God gives us a ministry. If you don't know what it's like to have a child out of wedlock or be a teenage mother, stop running out there and trying to minister to teenage mothers, and all you're doing is condemning them for being in the situation in the first place, and you don't know what it's like to have been in that situation yourself. See, God gives us all a ministry. This word of God is so varied and it's so in depth in the world. We call people, we say people are a jack of all trades and the master of none. God gives you a specific ministry. Work in that ministry. That ministry is authentic. That ministry is just for you. Don't run around trying to do what you see other people doing just because somebody else has a ministry for battered and abused women. Now you want to go start one so you can do what they're doing on Facebook. No, be true to who God called you to be. Sometimes ministering to children is what God called you to do. If that's what God called you to do, stick to it. Don't run out here and trying to get you a senior citizens ministry and you don't know how to talk to senior citizens. You don't have time to do what the senior citizens need you to do. They need you to come visit them in the home. They need you to take them to the grocery store every now and then. Pick up their medicine for them every now and then. But all you want to do is talk to somebody. The adults, the senior citizens don't want to go to Incredible Pizza. That's not a good outing for them. But you're doing what God has gifted you to do. So you got to find the people that Incredible Pizza is age appropriate for. See, you're trying to reach out to the senior citizens on Facebook, and they don't even have a Facebook page. You got to do what's right. Do what's authentic. If you're not gifted in the social media area, don't jump on social media. If you're gifted in picking up the phone and checking on people, that's what you need to do. Stop trying to do what you see other people do. See, when you do that, now it's not intentional. Now, again, you just throwing crumbs out to the birds at the park, hoping that it stick, hoping that they come up and get it. But you get upset when they go in and eating what the other person had. They got a better bread than you. They got something that the birds want. The birds don't even want your old stale hard bread. The birds over there with the fresh bread. This man went and bought a fresh loaf and throwing it out to the bird. You throwing out that old molded bread that you trying to get rid of in the first place. Make sure that it's intentional. Make sure that you got some good stuff when you're giving it to people. Again, God has given you a certain circle. Operate in that circle. Master your circle. Check on your circle. Hold your circle accountable. Stop trying to run out and evangelize all across the city, and all you're doing is wearing yourself out. But then you're feeding. What you feed them, it has to be balanced. You cannot feed the sheep the same thing all the time. You can't just feed Kraft macaroni and cheese and fish sticks all day, every day. The Spirit will reveal to you what people are going through. You got to make sure that the food that you're feeding them is healthy and it helps them grow. But at the same time, you got to give them something to hold them over every now and then. You know, you can't eat a full meal all day long. You eat a good breakfast, you can't turn around 2 hours later and eat another full breakfast. Sometimes you just need a little something to hold you over to the next meal. That's why give them a reward for eating the healthy meal. But you can't get the cake and ice cream if you hadn't eaten the meal that was meant to make you grow healthy and strong. And then when you eat the cake and ice cream, you got to make sure that it's just enough to reward you. Make sure that what you give them is layered. What I mean by that is it has to be timely. Each meal should build on the previous meal. You see, you got to make sure that what you feed people is timely, tactical, and tangible. People have to be able to connect what you're saying to something. That's why Jesus always used parables, because now people can attach their learning to something. Now, every time they think of a certain thing, they remember what Jesus taught them. You got to do the same thing with the people that are in your circle of influence. You got to make sure that they can attach their learning to something. Make sure that you give them a story, or you give them a situation that they can carry with them so that they'll remember what they were taught. Don't just make it so abstract that people forget all about what you said. Jesus let him know your crucifixion is coming too, Peter, but that's why I need to know, do you love me? Because they're going to kill you for feeding the sheep. They're going to kill you for caring about the sheep. They're going to kill you for moving from town to town and nation to nation. They're going to kill you for going around and making sure you have everything that everybody likes. They're going to kill you for making sure it's seasoned just right and the sheep are going to eat exactly what you dishing out. They're going to kill you for doing that, Peter. So I need to know, do you love me? Not do you love the sheep, but do you love me? If you love me, then you got to feed my sheep. If you love me, you got to be willing to be hung out on the cross. If you love me, you got to be willing for somebody to strap you up and turn you upside down until you die. But Peter, he did what we do sometimes. Peter said, why just me? Well, what about this other disciple? How they going to kill him? Jesus said, don't worry about him. If I desire that he lives until I come back, that's up to me. He said, but Peter, you follow me. That's the charge that he's given us today. You follow me. If you love me, feed my sheep. If you love me, put your life on the line for my sheep. He's not asking us, do we love the sheep? He said, do you love me? If you love me, even if you don't like the sheep, I need you to feed them anyway. If you love me, I don't care how the sheep have gone astray. I need you to feed them anyway. If you love me, I don't care if you got to go run out and bring the sheep in. He said, if you love me, feed my sheep. See, the sheep don't belong to us. The sheep belong to God. But if we love God, then we got to feed his sheep.